All right. Welcome back to another episode of The Mess in the Middle. And today, my special guest, I'm going to let her go into some details of who she is and how she's showing up on the planet, and really what we can do to make more progress to get through this messy middle. So, Lisa, welcome to the show. Thank you for being here. And I'm
Oh,
excited for this conversation because you are right there in the middle of this stuff. So, please take a couple minutes to let everybody know how you're showing up in the
okay.
universe.
Thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it. Yeah, so my name is Lisa Alfano, and my quick story is I recently retired from my job with the local government agency here in Portland, Oregon. I was with them for about 13 years, and I've been thinking about doing the retirement thing for a while. And I do not really prefer to use retirement because I'm not retiring. I'm leaving that job and moving on to
There you go.
another phase of my life. And I did that I just turned 61 and I started my own business about a year and a half ago. And it's called Try to Surf Right Now. And when I start talking about mess in the middle, that's all part of the same mess in the
Okay.
middle. But I am just really briefly about my background. I'm from the East Coast originally. I moved to Portland in 2004 and fell in love with the Pacific Northwest and all that it has to offer. And I'm a really active person at my stage of life and started doing a lot of very physical activities. When I turned 50, I started doing triathlons and surfing at 57.
Nice. So, now that we know you had a job, you retired from the job, which I think all of us at some point in our lives have held jobs. I've
Mhm.
had, I can go either way. I've done both being the employee and the employer. I don't have any preference one way or another. I think as long as I am learning and growing and helping the people that I'm doing work with, I don't care.
Yeah.
It is a little easier being an employee. And
I'm
I don't have to
finding
worry
that
about
out.
payroll and everything else. That's definitely a safer, most times, or less risk route, but not always as exciting as being an entrepreneur and venturing out and calling the shots and doing your own thing.
Yeah, I'm finding that out very quickly. There was at one point where I said to myself, is this something I really want to do? So I did working for a local government agency. We were giving back to the community and providing support. So I was feeding that altruistic type of a personality. I needed to be given back. And so I
Mm,
was doing that. And you're right. It wasn't feeding my passion,
yeah.
but giving back is something that was really important. But around the having your own business versus working for someone else, like you said, there are definitely
Yeah.
give and takes, but the operations, having that ready for you, not having to think about that, having the policies and procedures in place are really key. And I started thinking, oh, is my own business really what I want? But it is, I'm trying to follow my passion. So that's a driving point.
Good. Good. So talk a little bit about the business. What do you sell? Why are you doing it? Who do you serve?
Okay. So I serve women who are 50 and over, and
Okay.
also who self identifies that 50 and over, who want to reinvigorate their active selves. And I started it because I started doing triathlons at 50 and surfing at 57. And I thought, I've been getting some feedback and input from some friends of mine that, oh, they would love to surf, or I would really love to be that active and swim, bike, run. So I thought I would marry the two and
Okay.
try to get my tri friends to do surfing and surfing to do my surf friends to do triathlons. And I'm finding that it's not necessarily a two-way street. I think more people
Mhm.
want to learn how to surf. But while it was focused on that active world, those two things,
Mhm.
I realized that I want to build a community where it's a supportive and safe environment for us women over 50 to get together and be active and do the things that we love and learn and grow as well. And what it's morphed into is also trying to, not trying, address ageism.
Okay.
As
Yep.
as we get older, and especially being active, we are not necessarily perceived as being able to contribute to the sport, or we're too slow, or we're too this, or we're too that. And so, how can we as a group just really be in our power and do what it is that we love and just have a supportive environment to do so?
I think that's super important, especially because we're living so much longer and staying active and staying healthy. How's the best way to do that? I'm a perfect example, breaking my wrist riding a bike Not my fault because I was trying to avoid a car, much worse, but I'm active every day. I juice. I'm up. I'm either walking or running or riding my bike. I've been in pretty good shape. I take care of myself. But the point is the ability to stay healthy and to be able to stay active and find other women that are doing the same thing is
Yeah.
super important.
Yeah, it is really important. I'm doing my first surf retreat, a collaboration with this amazing person in Dominical, Costa Rica. I'm actually leaving on Thursday. And
Nice.
I'm getting feedback from folks that are saying, I would have loved to have gone. It just, the timing wasn't perfect. But to be with folks in our own similar age range, because we have
Yeah.
similar experiences, even though we're totally different, we're also same and similar.
Yeah.
And to be around folks that are in this, whoever,
Season of life.
yeah, thank
Okay.
you. And the stage of life is
Yeah.
really important. And so I'm really excited for this retreat and I do hope to do some more.
Good.
So that's what is also part of the mess in the middle. I'm trying to figure out, I am figuring out what does that look like,
Okay.
how to market, how to get folks really interested in signing up, but really what is it that I am offering that is meeting them where they're at?
Correct. And so it sounds like you found who your audience is. Now it's just going to be a matter of positioning it in a way and selling them something that solves something. So surfing could be the entry point, but are you familiar with active.com? It's a
Um,
website. And when they first started, it was very much about running. I haven't looked at it for in years, but when it first came out, it was a great source to get onto to find other runners, local
mhm,
runners, or local events, or they started getting into health and nutrition and how to buy a good pair of running shoes and things like that. That was where I started my running journey. But building a community like that for women 50 plus that still want some women just start running in their 50s,
right.
like you said you did. So it's being able to be, what do I want to say, broad enough but narrow enough. You can't go out and say we're the end all be all for every sport for 50 and over because then you're
Mhm,
going to be too big.
right.
You're not, nobody's going to hear your message. But it's finding that first one. And typically it starts with the entrepreneur's passion for that specific thing. Start to get some momentum. And as you start serving that community, they'll say, oh, we'd also like to know about swimming in competitively or different kinds of other sports that would go along with it. Typically, we don't just do one sport. Most of us like a variety of things, but that's a great place to start. Now, is the goal to monetize all this or is this more of a hobby and a passion?
That's where I would love to monetize it. And that's
Okay.
where I'm finding it's not my primary goal.
Okay.
My primary goal is really to
We're
be,
getting some feedback.
yeah, bring in some
Like,
feedback, to be a resource to folks, have an environment where folks will want to get together. And also, I need an income to survive, but it's not. And I also have other assets that I can use to supplement the income, but it is something that I want to monetize. So that would, and I would keep my retreats pretty reasonably priced because I don't
okay.
want these people out of the market and I want it to be more equitable if at all possible. So it is yes to monetize and also to give.
Okay, so you're looking to monetize it, but it's a give back, which is very typical for a lot of small businesses. We either start it because we're looking for a solution that we can't find, we have a passion, we're driven, or we've got some kind of purpose of why we want to do it. That's almost every single story. How to monetize it behind it, that becomes the next challenging conversation to have. Some people figure it out, some people don't. When you were talking about being an employee and how nice it is to go in and have systems and processes and SOPs and all that kind of good stuff by being an employee, that's part of why I started Zindo Labs and the whole marketplace because so many people they end up not making it through this stage of the business. They know what they wanna do. They know that they've got an end goal, but because they can't figure out that beginning stuff, what ends up happening is they don't figure out what these first few steps are. They go out and they try to jump fast forward to a program or a system that's bigger than where they're actually at. and then they flounder because they don't have that foundation to build upon it. That was the whole reason why I've started Zindo, is because without that beginning foundation, it's very tough to scale a business.
Yeah,
And
I
like
love your
everybody I was seeing, it's like they did step 1, then 3, then 14, then 82. And they're like, "It won't work." And I'm like, "Wait a second. Let's go back and let's do steps 1 through 10. Then we've got something that we can go to step 11." But the majority of it is not, the systems are built, right? This whole process of starting, launching, growing a business, it's been done so many times that you can document it. Now, it's
Mhm,
not direct. There's always going to be a pivot, or there's always going to be some different details that come into it. But for the most part, probably 80% of launching and start growing a business, I can automate it. I can put some kind of system behind it. The 20%, which is really the important part that we should be focusing on as a business owner, the creativity, your audience, that special energy that you bring that nobody else on the planet can duplicate, that ends up getting pushed aside because we end up focusing on, I need to get some momentum. I need to check off a list. I need to get some progress going. So let me focus on technology. Let me focus on building a website, setting up social media, setting up tracking, setting up email. We burn out, or we spend so much energy trying to do that technology stuff. And I mean, don't get me wrong, you're going to have to do it at some point. But at the beginning, we focus so much on that that a year from now, you'll have a half ass website, you'll have so copy. Maybe you picked up a couple customers, your message isn't defined, your market isn't defined, who you're selling to isn't defined because you spent all that energy. And typically people run out of money or run out of passion at that point, and then they feel unsatisfied because they never really were able to give their product its due, or their passion, or whatever they were, that widget, its time and energy, because they haven't spent any time on it yet. And I have seen this so many times. It's like I can talk to you and say, "Yep, all right, I'll tell you where you're going to be a year from now. I'm going to write it in an envelope. I'm going to mail it to you, and you can't open it for a year." And let's see if I'm
mhm.
right.
I don't know if I'm happy hearing this, knowing that you're in
Times.
my head right now, or because it's so true. It is so true. Yeah, I'm a real good doer, right?
Yeah.
I've been around operations and SOPs forever, and is exactly what's happening. I know I am so passionate about what I think I want to offer
Right.
that it's amazing to have to be in this feeling.
Right.
Yeah, it's messy because I've had no training, even though I think I have. This is completely different. And I do love Zindo. It's awesome. And I know it is on my list of definitely getting myself more involved with
Good.
it because your idea, your premise, your business offering is phenomenal.
Thanks.
But yeah, the creativity part, I get stuck, right? And I have all of these ideas. I'm an ideas person.
Hmm.
Without that solid foundation, like I have a dear friend who she's an artist and a creator, and she offered to help rename my business. But she said, Lise, what is it? What is the problem you're trying to solve? Or what is it exactly that you're trying? It's not the how, but more of what, right? I say I know what I want to do, but when I started, it's, oh, I don't know. So I'm there. I
Right.
totally hear you.
So, how does somebody buy from you if you haven't figured it out yet? Yeah. And
Yeah. How
again,
do
a lot of people will run into that. So, it's better off to spend that first, give yourself 30 days and say, you know what? I'm not going to worry about websites and social media and starting an email list and all that kind of stuff. I'm just going to sit with myself and sit with my idea. And it's, some of it's research, some of it is getting very clear as to what it, who it, start with, what problem am I solving? I'm solving, go down that path of conversation. I want to create a outlet for women over 50 to do sports. Why? Because they don't feel like they have enough. Why? Because, and just keep going until it's so exhausted that you can't come up with another why. and then
Yeah.
map that down. What does that look like? So at first, it's just brainstorming. It's just being able to sit with who cares? So what if through that conversation I say, who cares?
Yeah.
Guarantee you will have an answer to it because it's important because of this, because of that. There is going to be something that's driving you, and you will find other people that will feel the same way. But you've got to get past we're a group of women, we're going to do sports. So what?
Because sports is the outlet. It's not really the true reason. It's all about
Correct.
feeling empowered and I can do something that maybe I think I never could. And or I focused on others rather than myself for so
Right.
long, or I've been afraid to do this. And now you're a role model and I feel comfortable with folks being around other folks who are doing this and also who are trying it as well.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
such a beauty in being around folks who are doing the same thing, right? Trying the same thing because you have
Yeah.
the support. And I have found over the past, actually, since I started doing triathlons, so it's been 11 years, having that community and that
Yeah.
support is, it's hard to put into words. So I may be using this as an excuse, but it's so hard to put into words. It's more of a feeling. And like, how do you spell a feeling?
That's the only thing you sell, though.
I know. It's like,
Sister, that's what's important. Because if you remember, we buy emotionally, we justify logically, right? We all emotionally buy because you're getting us out of pain, into pleasure, solving something for us. So it's all emotional, it's all the story. Maybe sit with your phone when you're down in Costa Rica because it's going to be an amazing trip. When you have some downtime, sit down and talk to your phone and start creating some videos. Regardless if you ever do anything with them, coming through that emotion of being out on the water and with other women and in that whole thing is going to inspire you and just draw up all this emotion. Sit down with your phone. This is why I'm doing this. This is what's important. This is what's coming from this amazing experience I'm having here. And this is how it's helping other people.
yeah, that's
Bringing joy, it's bringing confidence, it's bringing love, it's vulnerability, fear, adventure. All that is what would, for me, come from an experience like that. That's what you're selling.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mirror training. 'Cause it is, yes. And it's being
Yeah.
able to articulate it, but sometimes it gets difficult on that, like you said, on that whole operationalizing it. How do I do the content? And I found also that when I'm out of that trying to operationalize things and I'm just showing up as me, it's simple. It's easy
Yeah.
because it just, you can feel when a person is passionate about something, regardless of what that something is.
Correct.
So,
It could be bugs or just anything, plumbing, or
yeah.
my old boyfriend was a telecom guy. Man, that would having a conversation about that would light him up like nobody's business. And I'm like, I have absolutely no interest in hearing you, but the energy and the passion that he had for it, I mean, in itself was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so you're working on that. So some advice would be is stop worrying about the how. There's plenty of us that know how to do the how, that can show you the way faster than you're ever going to get on your own. Focus on what your product is and who the audience you're going to serve. Because that I can you okay, here's a perfect example. You could go to any agency, right? They'll do all your marketing for you. Who are you selling and what is your widget is still going to be the burning question they're going to have for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So having operations and setup and systems and all that kind of stuff is nice to have. Don't get me wrong, there's huge value in it, but it's still not going to make you any money.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's where the mess in the middle is, right? It's
That
not,
is it.
and also what I have a question.
Please.
I have to talk to folks about this over the past year or two is how do you know what price point to use? Because I know that my time and experience is valuable. Yet I also want to make sure that it's sustainable and attainable for folks to actually be able to join. Or do I want to choose a certain demographic to say, this is what I think I am worth, and this is what I'm charging, and for the folks that can will. You know, and that's where
You
get a
run into
little.
issues.
Mhm.
Typically, this will be found out during your research stage. So, what I would do is spend some time online, going and finding other people that offer events or destiny setups. It could be we're going to do 3 days in Cabo and we're going to launch your business, or we're going to do 5 days in Cancun to build relationships or work
Mhm.
with couples, or there's plenty of that online. So first I would start go into Facebook, look for different kinds of groups around travel or get-togethers, some kind of event. Besides Facebook groups, you can go to websites like Eventbrite. I
Mm.
would also go into these groups, even though you may not find the exact same business model that you're trying to launch, you'll find others. Start talking to people, ask
Yeah.
questions. Your biggest friend right now is the ability to ask questions. Why'd you do that? What did you take away from it? What did you really like? Where were the opportunities that kind of fell flat? How was the pricing? How was the food? How was the location? Did you bond with other people? Did you walk away from the event with a desire to come back and
Yeah.
then do another one? Your biggest asset right now is going to be just vulnerable and being able to ask questions and take feedback, gather feedback. There's no right answer here. It's going to be, what does the market bear? What does your audience? It will go to some of it as the demographics you pick. Are you picking over 50, college educated, corporate, C-level entrepreneurs? All of that plays into this as far as a price point. And what you've got to be able to do is, if you're picking destination type events, what does that cost? Figure out that cost, roll in your cost, and then what does the profit look like?
Yeah.
If you can't walk away with 20%, 30% profit, then it's gonna be a lot of work for you. And the value of the event is gonna have to make up for the lack of revenue that you're gonna make.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for
Some of
that.
that is gonna be math, just math.
Mhm. Yeah. I had a conversation with a friend the other day who is doing her, I think it's her first retreat. She's a healer, yoga practitioner,
Okay.
Atma person. And she said, Lisa, she did exactly what you just described. And she is doing so much prep work in
Yeah.
addition to their tangibles, right? Like the
Yeah.
food and lodging. She's doing so much prep work. She's also providing like hands on 6 hours a day. And she's so, how much does that cost? And what is my overhead and my costs? And she figured out this is what I want to make because
Yeah.
of all the effort that I'm putting into it. And this is how I'm charging. And
Good.
I was listening to her going, I can feel like it was tangible. I was able to take
Wrap your
away
head.
from
Yeah.
her. And
Yeah.
it just reinforced what you just said.
There's a really good book. It's been around for 100 years, I think, but it's called The E-Myth by Michael Gerber.
Okay.
Have you
Okay.
read that?
No, I have not.
There's
I've heard of
I'll
the author though.
Okay, I'll add the book to the show notes. It's worth reading. I'll give you a quick example. So he goes into three different roles that we play when we start a business, right? You have the manager, which is typically somebody, say, I work in a bakery and I really love baking. And then I become a supervisor, then I become the manager, then I become the head of the bakery. And I do so well that I decide I want to spin off and open up my own, right? So then when you go back into your own, you start again as, I'm the person baking the goods, selling to the customers, doing the bookkeeping. So then you just work yourself into a job that you're now responsible to pay yourself. There's that fine line where you've got to be able to get out of, they call it the technician, the manager versus, I forget what, like the innovator, the
Mhm.
person with the running the business. You've got to be able to evolve through those roles. Otherwise, you just have a job. You're not an
Yeah.
entrepreneur, you're a business owner. And I think there's a pretty good distinction between the two. There's nothing wrong with being either one of
Right.
those, but you've got to be cognizant of what you're signing up for. When I opened up my first coffee shop, I was super struggling with consistency. I would make drinks one way, employee number one would do it like I showed him. because I trained him and he
Mhm.
trained three other people. And those three other people did it a little bit different. So as I started growing, I would run into customers at the grocery store or the gas station, and they'd be, "Hey, Audra, I was in your coffee shop the other day, and when Bob makes my drink, it's really good, but when Sam makes it, it's not the same." And I was getting this just bombarding me. So I went to see my accountant and I explained, and he said, "You got to read this book." I was like, "Yeah, I got time to read a book. I try to run a business here. I got three kids under the age of 10 as a single parent. I don't have time for this." Finally, after struggling enough, I
Okay.
sat down in a weekend and picked up the book and I was like, "Oh my gosh." So what I figured out was, or what the book teaches you is really how to McDonald's. How
Mhm.
do you get a hamburger in Texas and a hamburger in New York City? You're going to get the same thing because they have figured out the system thing. Same with Starbucks, same with Hair Cuttery or any these franchise have figured out how to rinse and repeat the model. So what I did was I said, okay, if I'm going to solve this consistency thing so I can figure out what the actual profit is going to be from this business, I have to go back and I have to micromanage every single detail. So I went and said, okay, you come in, you turn on the lights. Then what happens? Okay. Then you go, you turn off the alarm. Then you do this, you do that. I went through and created a step by step for every single thing that was touched in
Mm.
every one of my coffee shops. So if it didn't matter if you walked in, if I handed you the book, you could run those stores as long as you followed the step by step. I took out all of the opportunity to make mistakes. Now, the reason why this is important is at the beginning here, to get to revenue, we've got to have those systems, right? We need those things that we can put on autopilot that can run regardless who touches the work for us. I ran into this a lot. So to fast forward to example from today, in my agency, when I launched my agency in 2009, I would run into challenges with people I was freelancing that would provide different kinds of results based on their knowledge because I didn't know how to do it yet. So I hire a SEO guy, but the SEO guy didn't talk to their social media person that didn't talk to their website person. And then I
Mm.
was getting inconsistent results. So
Okay.
I figured out you got to build from the top down, not the bottom up. So once I worked through this and started getting some momentum, when I go into a company, I say, okay, what is your widget? What are we trying to do? I sell this. We're trying to get it to $1 million a year, $10 million a year, 50 million, whatever it is. Okay. How are we going to do that? What do we have in our toolbox to build this beautiful home that you want us to build?
Mhm.
We build the system. Then whoever we plug in to get that work done is not as important. It still matters, don't get me wrong, but I don't have to bring you in now for your SEO experience because we already have a plan as to what the SEO is going to look like, how it's going to be written, mapped out, grow. The whole plan's already been created. Now I just need to bring in somebody that knows SEO to follow the plan that we've already agreed we're going to accomplish.
Wait, so using that example, Audrey, how did you come as that example? How did you
Yeah,
come up with the SEO example though? Did you work with experts in the field in order to determine that, or did you learn that yourself?
I got my ass kicked early on. It was hard. It was definitely hard. So I had to learn it. So I would hire, and mind you, probably the first 10 clients I had, I
Mhm.
paid them to work with them. I lost so much money. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know how to ask for things. I didn't know how to bid on the project. I definitely paid my dues because unfortunately, when it comes to marketing, and back then, this is 2009, we're just getting some momentum online. There weren't things that there are now. So I had to learn it the hard way.
Yeah.
Or I'd launch a campaign. Here's another great one. I would go into a company, and mind you, they were paying me tremendously. I could go in and 10 years ago and charge $10,000, $20,000. to build out systems for them. But I'd build them these beautiful systems, teach a couple people in their office on how to use them, go back in 6 months. And I'm like, so how's it working? Is it great? No, Susie left and got a different job. And Bob, but he's in a different department now. So we haven't touched it since you left. I'm like, oh my gosh, you guys spent
Mm.
all that money with me. I feel terrible. So then I started evolving and saying, okay, let me build a system for the people that are actually going to run the system. Right. So if I leave it with the business owners and the company themselves, then again, it doesn't matter who's sitting in that seat because it doesn't matter what their name is. All they're doing is following the blueprint that the company already decided they needed for that role.
Okay.
Then things clicked for me. It's like, okay, I got it. And then after that, I was able to scale very easily, but I crashed and burned a lot at the beginning. It was stressful.
And it's clear that you stuck with it.
So use it to your example. You may
Mhm.
have to go out and do a handful of events and not make any money
Yeah.
just to get the practical knowledge of what it takes to pull that off. Oh, okay. I way underestimated the food budget. I way underestimated the downtime or the amount of energy I was going to have to put in. Next time I probably need an assistant. You could forecast, but it may just take you doing a handful of these to say, okay, I've done it now. I know what's going to work, what's not going to work. I didn't make a dime. And maybe it cost me even $1,000 to get through that. But now I know what customers want.
Yeah. Yeah.
Make sense?
Yeah, totally makes sense.
Yeah.
It's interesting where intellectually I know what to do in a way, but it's that it's getting there, taking those steps. And as I said in the beginning of our talk, I'm not placing the sole responsibility of me still working on this because it is in part my time management skills and the other
Yes.
things that I have going on in my life. Yet when the job ends, I'm on call. So I'm doing project work. So
Yeah.
end of July, I also have some other travels and I'll help the team out for a while,
Yeah.
but I'll have more time. Like I'll have more brain time. There'll be
Yeah.
more
Yeah.
space up here on the brain.
Yeah. Which is normal. A lot of people start a side hustle and they've got to figure out how to balance family and friends and jobs and other obligations. And it's tough. You've got to be super disciplined to be able to pull that transition off. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, a lot of people don't make it.
And I can understand why. Part like going back to the whole mess in the middle thing is that I reconnected with a friend of mine that I met when she was 24. She's 35 now. And she started out doing one piece of her business and now she's doing life coaching, but it's not just life coaching. Then we reconnected and I'm part of a group with her. And I'm finding that as long as I have support,
Yeah.
talking with other women, primarily
Mhm.
women, it doesn't have to be just women, but right now it is women.
Yeah.
I can keep that motion, that energy going because I have that community that I can share with.
Good.
And I guess the question is when you're building Zindo, did you have that community and that support to bounce things off of?
I think this has been an evolution for me for probably 10 years. This is going to be one of those, it's a 15-year overnight success kind of things because it's taken me so long. It's evolving. It's a living, breathing. The more podcasts I do, the more customers I talk to and go through their projects, and I can fill in the holes. For some reason, the universe, God has given me this skill. This is my superpower is to be able to simply take something this big and just say, no, you just got to do these three things. That's it. Let's do the three. Let's keep moving. That's my calling. That's my purpose. The community, I have maybe a really tight, small circle that is probably so sick of tired hearing all of this over these years. But I'm a little bit more like a lone wolf. So for
Mhm.
me, I'm a little bit more independent. I don't always have the answers, but here's a skill that has definitely helped me. I'm really good at asking questions and I'm very curious.
Yeah.
I spend a
Okay.
lot of time online. Like I'm teaching myself how to code AI. I don't know how to
Oh,
do it.
wow.
I've
Okay.
never taken a website class in my life, but I've built probably 500 websites over the last 10 years.
Mhm.
I didn't start there though. Remember, was
Mhm.
hiring people because I don't know how to build a website, and then crash and burned numerous times. And I was like, I got to figure this out. YouTube courses, I'll figure it out, commitment to getting through it. And this is how I'm wired. We can learn anything. So there's no barrier there for me to go learn something new. So I'm weird like that where I'll figure it out. And I may
Yeah.
have to walk away from it for a little while and then come back to it. Don't get me wrong. I struggle just like anybody else. We all start in kindergarten, right? And I'm in like eighth grade now. I
Right.
still am going to experience things that I don't know how to do, but somebody does.
Yeah.
I just got to find them.
Yeah. You're certainly an inspiration, and I feel that I can learn almost anything. I'm
You
gonna
can
be
learn
learning.
anything. Don't put the word almost in there.
I've tried to learn Spanish forever, and I have this barrier on language. But yes, I can learn how I can learn anything.
How about
It's
maybe you haven't found a way to learn it that makes sense for you yet?
I know. I decided to go to Oaxaca. There's this Spanish school that comes highly recommended by 2 friends that I know, and they do more conversational rather
Yeah.
than memorization, and that's probably gonna be I'm hopeful and optimistic that's the key for me, and then
Okay.
that is an example of how my brain works, how do I learn
Yeah.
something new? I'm gonna
Yeah.
be immersed in an environment, and that'll transfer to my business.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm really looking forward to that part.
Okay. So after your adventure, what is the goals for the takeaways? So when you do your event next week, you should go into it besides being present and
Mhm.
just allowing the experience to turn in whatever it's going to turn into. But you should have a kind of a business plan afterwards.
Okay. One of the is to I do wanna get feedback and input from the women that are joining about what was
Okay.
it like to apply, the website, get their feedback.
Okay.
Also, get input about what are some of the other things that they would like to see. We do prep questionnaires, so I do know
Okay.
what it is, why they joined and what they wanna get out of it.
Okay.
And then part of this process for me also is to work with the woman who I do the surf retreats with and get more of the technical information from her about what the cost is. Cause I just have to pay one cost. But if
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
want to do it on my own, like what are all the details around working in another country? And then lastly, one of the last things is not try, get like just grab hold of the feelings that these women are having surfing for the first time and then turn that into I'm really gonna be doing the videos, so thank you so much for that suggestion. Turn that into, like, just an offering so folks can actually see and witness what other people are experiencing.
So maybe something that you can suggest to the women is the whole purpose of being here is that we try something new and we're present. So suggest to them at the end of the day, sit down with your phone and talk about how you feel, what you just accomplished. Maybe it's surfing for the first time. Maybe it's the camaraderie. Maybe it's the water, the sun, the drinks. What is it that, because they're going to need to, that's what's important. That's the whole point of the event. If
Mhm.
they can sit down and record their own, then maybe they can share one or two or whatever with you after the event of how
Oh,
they
yeah.
were feeling in
Mhm.
real time.
Yeah, we've done that in the past, but that's more of a group, but I do
Yeah.
love that idea to have
Yeah.
them do it. They could do it on their own time if they don't
Yeah.
feel comfortable having me or
Yeah.
someone
Yeah.
else
Yeah. Yeah.
video them.
This
Yeah.
is something for them. That's just
Yeah.
one, they're going to serve as very valuable testimonials for you. They're
Mhm.
going to serve as giving other people ideas. And it's also going to give you feedback of what really worked and where you had some challenges. Now, I've done tons of events, not surfing events, more business or real estate or stuff like that. But typically, what we'll do at the end of the day for like in 1 hour, we'll sit down and write down everything that worked and every challenge that we ran into. And that's it. We don't go into the weeds of why those things happen. We just write them down. And then at the end of the event, we would typically all get together and sit down and recap and go through them saying, okay, this really worked. How can we make it even better next time? And this sucked. And we have got to have a better system. Maybe the registration didn't work. Maybe the handouts didn't work. Maybe the timing was off, whatever those events were. So that every event we had after that got better and better to the point where it was just like clockwork.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just make some mental notes or for yourself so you can continue to build. Essentially, you're creating and live testing your product.
Right.
Yeah, which is amazing.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I was a little, of course, nervous and trepidatious, and we don't have as large of an audience as we folks participating, but it's going to be wonderful. And
It is.
the women that are joining have never surfed before. They're nervous and scared and excited. And I know what that feels like. And I'm honored to be able to be there for them and with them and
Awesome.
support.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. And you'll walk away from it saying, I got a clear direction of where I'm headed, or I'm going to pivot a little bit and this
Mm.
is what's showing itself.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you guys, as we go through this, I know we've talked specifically about Lisa's product, but the things I want you to take away is we don't always have the answers at the beginning. Some of it's just testing, iterating till we come up with that MVP, that more valuable product of what our unique value proposition of what that widget is that we're going to sell. And a lot of times, where we start the more hands we get it into, the more people we help with that, it'll evolve again. So don't get stuck on, I got to have this one thing, it's got to fit in this box, and that's it. You've got to, here at the beginning, you have to be flexible. You have to allow this evolve into what it's supposed to be. Remember, you don't really have a business if somebody's not willing to pay you for it. So you've got to be open to what that is going to turn into. Friends and family don't count because, guys,
Yeah.
didn't you just have a cool hobby? You got to be able to get validated from the people that are willing to take out their credit card.
Yep.
Yeah. So, what's going to be, or maybe as we wrap up here, what would be something else that you feel is tripping you up right now?
Oh, myself.
Yourself. Yeah, it's always ourselves.
Yeah. I'm trying not to use the word imposter syndrome, but there are a lot of amazing things that are happening out in the active world right now. And the age of 50 and above is getting a little bit more traction, which is awesome. And what's tripping me up a little bit is how do I not overstep is not the right word, but how do I not overburden, overwork myself to get in touch and work in partnership or in support of other women that are also doing work like this?
Stop looking outside.
That's looking outside.
Yeah. Because it's almost making you have hesitation. They're further
Mm.
ahead, they're doing bigger things, they're louder, they're out there more, they're further, they've got more, maybe their stuff is better. I should just let them run. Stop looking out. What you have is all you need. Go back here. I need to focus on my audience and serving and holding a few events to really hone in on who I'm going to serve. There's always going to be somebody in eighth grade. We're not better. We're just further along our journey than you are.
Yeah.
That's
Thanks.
it.
That's a great analogy because I can visualize that more, right? We have all these kids in eighth grade, but some are at senior level, high school level, and it's just where we're at.
Right.
Yeah.
They're not
Thanks.
better. We're just further. We're
Yeah.
just, there's always going to be somebody with more experience. And I think that's where that imposter syndrome thing, or not enough, or not good enough yet, or I need more skills, or I need to learn more things before I go out there and let anybody see me. I got what I got. This is where I'm at in my stage. There's always going to be somebody behind you that you can serve.
Yeah.
And
Mm.
that's your audience. So focus this way and not this way because you'll never catch them. So what's the
Yeah.
point of wasting any energy on it? Now, it's great to look at to say, this is where I'm striving to get to, or this is a great goal down the road. But the comparison thing, don't even waste any energy on it.
Hmm. Thank you. This is
You're
just,
welcome.
I know we're already at the hour, but this was such an easy, free flowing. I could feel like I could talk with you forever. I appreciate you being who you are and starting your company and
Oh,
giving all the input and doing these podcasts for everyone to learn and provide input. It's pretty awesome.
oh, thank you. Thank you. So, you guys, listen, we're all at different stages in this process. It's easy, it's hard, it's never easy. Okay, occasionally we get a break and we get to glide a little bit while we catch our breath and get some more momentum. But please, for the love of all things, if you're committed to this journey and this is your path, you've got to really go in here and deal with this because this thing will trip you up and focus on who am I serving? What am I selling? And what is the best way to provide this value? And that's it. That's it. Stop overcomplicating it. So put the work in, get it done, and just like always, keep moving through the middle because
Yeah.
it doesn't, it's not going to stop for any of us. So it's a process. And I'm excited to hear about your trip when you get back.
Okay. I will certainly let Jan give you an update. I'm excited.
Please, please do. All right, Lisa, thanks for being here. Until next time, you guys.